Good evening, y'all. I know it's been so long, there's so much to catch up on, but I was inspired here for multiple reasons, but mostly here by this nice, wonderful plant, this canna lily who is flowering after having moved 2 states since my last video. Like I said, there's just so much to catch up on. So I just wanted to go ahead and start off by showing one of my, prized possessions now at this point since I've moved and don't have that many. But I have a lovely canna that I kind of want to show y'all. I want to just bring y'all in a little closer so y'all can see some of the colorations here on the actual petals themselves. They are gorgeous. Like, look at that there, and a random chair in the background as I slowly settle a new house here in New Mexico, which is quite the difference in some ways from Florida, where y'all are used to me posting videos from. But as I said, I've moved 2 states since. I've moved to Texas as a little pit stop, and then I'm now in New Mexico, which has been really nice, but quite the adjustment. You can see I'm wearing my glasses these days as wearing my contacts. It's just so windy and dusty here, it's just a little too much. But luckily for plants, it's really sunny here. Though it does get obviously a little bit colder than what I'm more used to being in South Florida and Central Texas. But funnily enough, the growing zone isn't too much different. I think I'm in about 8A right now, though it does get into like the lower 20s sometimes here and there so far, and we're still in December, so we'll see what January and February brings. But with that being said, you can see I am overwintering some canna lilies and many plants. I am such a containerscape gardener kind of person. I love my potted plants and being able to see their roots and upsize them and just kind of have them in a bit more controlled of an environment and just more of an environment that I'm used to. I know, sometimes in Florida, I was able to showcase some of my outdoor plants or at least mention them there in the landscaping, but and that's wonderful for drainage and everything, but I am much more used to planting on the patio. So this canna lily here is actually in pretty much my entryway room, foyer. Not sure what to call it yet as we gather more furniture, but I think ultimately with the way that the sunlight hits, and you can see the sunlight hitting on the couch and window behind me, it really gets that really nice afternoon, strong evening sun for things even like canna to go ahead and flower with. I actually did repot this a couple weeks ago, and it was actually more clustered than it is now. It was a little bit more tight. So I went ahead and separated these two, and you can see you kind of have what are now going to be 2 more mother plants or stalks, like the taller stalks here, and then I have little 2 baby ones here. So it's nice and happy, and even through being shoved in a Prius and having to drive all day from Austin to New Mexico, it's gone through, it's made it happy, it's been upsized in the pot. So I definitely recommend, despite, cannas are pretty, in my opinion, tolerant and indestructible, steel-studded plants, but I still love to baby them because I just love their flowers. They're one of my favorites. And so it's nice that this one's just barely beginning to bloom for y'all to see it. And I can hopefully post some more pictures as it opens up and becomes more beautiful. And hopefully some of the flowers are kind of able to remain intact and not weather torn and stuff since it's here inside. So with that being said, it being indoors, I do water it about probably just once a week at this point, since it is still getting used to having a little bit more soil. I know it's not root bound or anything in here. So I'm pretty cautious right now about not overwatering, though I do tend to like my cannas to get pretty acclimated into their pot and pretty cozy. So this one's probably gonna be in this pot for probably the next growing season or so, or at least half the growing season. So let's say halfway into spring or so, as it starts to push out more babies and I start to notice that it's just natural weight without water and stuff starts to get heavier as the roots start to grow. I'll go ahead and check on it, see if it needs to be maybe upsized one more time. I would say this is probably a 13-inch pot or so. And so I might go to like a 15-inch pot, and that's usually where I like to cap my cannas as far as pots, because then they start to get a little bit too big for me to, do a whole squat and wrestle them inside and outside without having to ask for help. And I do like to remain rather independent with my plants, or at least be able to lift them myself, because personally that's how I like to check on when to water. I like to know, and I kind of recommend this if one is able-bodied enough to do so. I know that can take a lot, especially for something like cannas that can start to get pretty big. But for smaller plants, I would recommend knowing someone like needs water weight. When it's nice and dry, you can kind of pick up a plant and know when it needs water, especially for those that don't have like drainage holes at the bottom that you can maybe, see a little bit more into. And then go ahead and see if it needs some watering. So that's kind of how I like to do it. And I also like to bottom water with just like clear containers. Or there's also the pots from like, any of the big box stores where it has like the kind of saucer input at the bottom that you can kind of like, shove a little saucer into the 4 drainage holes and make it not drain. Or you could remove it if you've kind of heavy watered a little bit and have some drainage go through to make sure it's not sitting in water. So with that being said, you can see cannas can still flower in the winter, which is a wonderful reason why I like to just baby them throughout, because I don't know, I just love to still have pops of color and life in the winter time, even if it takes, a lot more excessive care than just letting them die back and come back in the spring. That's also just not something I'm very experienced with my bulbs, is letting them have that rest, unfortunately. So, and that's mostly due to not being in cold conditions where you can naturally let those bulbs kind of have that kind of rest. Often in Florida, the winters would be too mild, and I would purposefully tuck in cannas in places where wind chills wouldn't kill them, so that they would just keep on going throughout the year. But now that I'm kind of more in a little bit of a mountainous, naturally chilled climate, I may try a go with like some tulips and things like that to see how those go throughout the year and letting them die back and all that kind of stuff. Maybe next year, as my cannas multiply and I have more of them, I'll be comfortable with putting them outside and then letting them do a little bit more of their natural thing. But as for now, they are kind of my prized babies that I spoil very much. But yeah, I love this new leaf that's coming here. So I'm looking forward to go ahead and growing these here. Somewhere where it's a little bit different. These are much more plentiful in Florida and even in some parts of Texas. So I'm curious to go ahead and share my love for plants here with the New Mexico natives and see how they like it. And then I just want to also kind of pose the questions, because here it's a lot more natural landscaping, it's a lot more xeriscaping. So I'm curious if people are going to be open to plants like cannas, elephant ears, maybe even hibiscus here and there, syngoniums, arrowhead plants, pothos even, because those are just the plants that I kind of have and gravitate towards and have knowledge of. Of course, I do have some succulents and things like that. And we've gone to some of the plant stores and there are some familiar plants, but there are also just a lot more shrubby kind of plants right now. Maybe in the spring and the summer there'll be some more plants that I'm used to and some more pops of colors and kind of delicate plants that I'm more used to. But yeah, for now I think I'm just gonna go ahead and try to introduce what I have, and hopefully it gets received warmly. I was already kind of sharing some pictures of this flower opening up at work today. And there are plenty of windows luckily at my new office that I can actually bring some houseplants to, and everyone seemed warm and receptive to it. But yeah, just out of curiosity, if y'all have any input as far as like, I don't know, native and or introduced, let's say, plants and landscaping and home gardening. Of course, nothing invasive, and of course that's not really a question when you're doing containerscape gardening, but Yeah, I just want to find a way to be able to like introduce plants around here without also sticking out like a sore thumb and just having tropical plants and South Florida plants. So I appreciate y'all watching this video. I'll go ahead and send a quick little sign off with the girls as they snooze. And it's just nice to be home relaxing all together and safe and sound. So we'll catch y'all in the next one. I know it's been a while, but I'll definitely be more consistent these days.